She smiles, not because she loves you, but because it works. Because in that moment, your mind begins to drift, your center begins to shift, and your masculinity starts to negotiate. You tell yourself she's different, that you've finally found the one. But Jung saw what most men still don't. The woman you see is not the woman who's there. What you're looking at is a projection, an illusion, a shadow. You're not falling for her. You're falling for yourself, the part of you you've never owned, never claimed, and never confronted. And she becomes its mirror. Jung called it the Anima, the feminine soul image buried in the unconscious of every man. It's not real. It's not her. It's a hallucination your psyche casts onto her body. And the more disconnected you are from your own center, your values, your mission, your father wound, the brighter this fantasy becomes. You'll call it love. She'll call it attention. But in truth, it's a possession. You no longer see her clearly. You see her symbolically. The Redeemer, the angel, the cure for the chaos inside you. But here's what Jung warned, and why this may be the most dangerous truth you'll ever hear. She was never your salvation. She was the shadow of the part of you abandoned. And until you take it back, until you individuate, until you see her clearly, you'll keep chasing women who do not exist. You'll keep falling for illusions that destroy you. You'll keep mistaking your weakness for love. This is not about her. This is about you. So stay focused. Don't scroll away. Don't rationalize. This is the part of the video most men can't sit through. But if you do, if you face it, you just might walk away with something no woman can ever give you. Clarity. She walks past. You freeze. You stare. And suddenly, your entire nervous system is alert. Not because of her beauty alone, but because something in her whispers completion. You don't know why, you don't know how, but your body tells you, this one will make the pain stop. This is the Anima at work. Carl Jung didn't just see the feminine as a psychological idea. He saw her as a trap, a projection so powerful, so divine-looking, that men would gladly trade their purpose, their path, even their power, just to be close to her. But what is the Anima, really? It's not the woman. It's not even desire. It's the disowned soul of the man, the part he never met, the part he never integrated, the part he now sees in her. You don't fall in love with a woman at first sight. You fall in love with your own reflection, the fantasy of healing, the promise of wholeness, the image of redemption, and she becomes the screen. Now watch what happens next. You stop being direct. You start being nice. You adjust. You impress. You hope. You suppress your fire. You silence your instinct. You become her student, her servant, and eventually, her shadow. And all of it feels noble, because you call it love. But Jung warned that this is not love. It's possession. It's a spiritual hijacking. You've given away the throne of your own psyche and handed it to an illusion, a woman who never asked to be your savior, but now finds herself worshipped, resented, or both. This is how it begins. Not with sex, not with obsession, but with the lie that she holds your missing piece. She doesn't. The anima only leads you outward when you haven't gone inward. And unless you stop chasing her, you'll never face him, the man you were meant to become. This is why Jung said that the real journey is not toward her, it's toward you. She never said she was divine. She never claimed to be flawless or holy or wise. But you did. In the silence of your unmet needs, your broken fatherhood, your unresolved boyhood hunger, you crowned her. You took a woman with her own flaws, fears, and fictions, and you made her a goddess. Not because she is, but because you needed her to be. This is the secret Jung tried to whisper into the ears of modern men, and which most still refuse to hear. Her power is not inherent, it is projected. The more disempowered you are as a man, the more divine she appears. The more lost you feel, the more luminous her presence becomes. She becomes your compass, your confessor, your queen. But behind every pedestal is a man on his knees, and here's the brutal truth. No woman alive can carry the weight of the illusion you place on her shoulders. Not for long, not without breaking or breaking you. So what happens? You start managing her. You tiptoe. You apologize. You suppress truth to preserve her glow. And with every compromise of your clarity, your edges, your standards, you feed the illusion until one day she looks at you with a kind of quiet disappointment. Not because you were too much, but because you stopped being real. You stopped being a man. You became a devotee of the image. And what began as adoration ends in resentment. Because no woman wants to be worshipped for something she never was. And no man survives the erosion of his own backbone. Jung saw it all coming. He wrote, "Every man carries within him the eternal image of woman, but few realize that the woman he is drawn to is a symbol of his own psyche." Translation? She is the mirror, not the message. She reflects what you lack, and until you stop projecting, you will keep falling in love with your own shadow. The anima becomes a goddess when the man forgets his God, his direction, his fire, his standards, his truth. Want to reclaim your life? Take her off the throne. Stand up and own what you gave away. There's a moment in every man's story where he stops being the protagonist. Not when he fails, not when he loses money, status, or direction, but when he hands the pen to someone else and lets a fantasy woman write his role. And it often looks beautiful from the outside. He's loyal. He's committed. He calls it love. But look closer. He no longer speaks with fire. He avoids conflict. He tiptoes through his own truth just to keep the symbol intact. This is romantic submission. Not the kind born of respect or sacred union, but the kind born of symbolic servitude. She doesn't ask for it directly. She doesn't need to, because he has already given it. You see, when the anima isn't confronted, she doesn't just haunt a man. She governs him. He dresses for her. He performs for her. He makes decisions, major ones, based not on vision, but on validation. And the worst part, he thinks it's noble. He confuses obedience for devotion. appeasement for affection, self-erasure for selflessness. But Jung saw it clearly. He wrote that the man possessed by his anima becomes sentimental, emotionally driven, and subject to moods. Translation? He becomes a servant to emotion, not a steward of meaning. And what does this cost him? Everything. The man who submits to the anima loses his edge, his instinct, his inner war. He starts silencing his gut just to preserve the peace. He starts negotiating his boundaries just to avoid disapproval. And eventually, he stops being a man. He becomes a mirror, reflecting what he thinks she wants to see, instead of radiating who he actually is. No woman respects this. No soul survives it. This is the quiet tragedy of modern masculinity. Men sacrificing their sovereignty for a seat at the altar of romantic validation. But the truth? If you must bow, let it be to something higher than the symbol. Let it be to truth. Let it be to the man you were before the illusion began. Because submission to a fantasy is not love, it's self-betrayal. She says she's disappointed. She doesn't feel safe. She doesn't feel seen. She says, "You've changed." And she's right, but not in the way she thinks. She's not disappointed in who he is. She's disappointed because he stopped being him. You see, a woman doesn't begin by demanding a king. She begins by responding to one. She's drawn to his focus, his direction, his unapologetic presence. He's decisive. He's unbothered. He's on a path, but slowly, quietly, he starts making her the path. He chooses peace over purpose. He avoids tension rather than speak hard truths. He seeks her approval more than his own standard. He tells himself he's being loving, but what he's really doing is abandoning the man she first respected. And then, her eyes change. She begins to test. She begins to push. She withdraws softness. She escalates standards, not always to manipulate, but often just to find the edge he gave up. And when he fails those tests, not because he's weak, but because he's afraid to offend, he confirms her greatest fear, that he's not solid. This is not about being alpha. This is not about dominance. This is about spiritual posture. A man who betrays his own fire to keep her affection will always, always lose both. Because a woman's disappointment is rarely about him not doing enough. It's about him doing too much for her and too little from himself. Carl Jung understood this collapse. He warned that when a man is overtaken by his anima, he loses his masculine center and becomes ruled by emotion, impression, and guilt. In other words, he becomes apologetic for existing, and she, whether consciously or not, starts to resent the man who once led with truth, but now follows for safety. So understand this. When she says she's disappointed, pause before reacting. Ask yourself, where did I go silent? When did I make her my compass? What truth did I stop telling to keep the symbol alive? Because until you reclaim the man behind the performance, you'll keep losing her to the shadow of your own self-abandonment. The great lie is that masculinity must conquer the feminine. The greater lie is that it must serve her. But the deepest truth, the one no man is taught, is that he must first confront the image of the feminine inside himself. This is what Carl Jung called the Anima. Not just woman as she is, but woman as she appears in his unconscious, as ideal, as goddess, as rescuer, as reward. And when a man lives under the spell of this Anima, he doesn't love women. He loves his fantasy of what she can do for him. He thinks she will complete him. He thinks she will save him. He thinks if he becomes good enough, kind enough, soft enough, she will finally choose him. But this is not love. This is self-erasure. This is submission to a symbol. And there is no dignity in being chosen by a god you created. The rise of the sovereign begins the moment a man sees it. The woman he longs for, the validation he craves, the future he's fantasized, was never hers to give. It was his own unlived self, projected outward. You don't need to kill the Anima. You need to reclaim her. She is your muse, not your master. She is not the voice of the real woman. She is the echo of your unmet hunger, your boyhood ache for affirmation, your unfinished sentences with the mother who praised you only when you pleased her. But you are not a boy anymore. And no woman, no matter how beautiful, no matter how kind, has the right to become the mirror in which you disappear. A sovereign man stops negotiating with illusion. He does not ask a woman to validate him. He sees her clearly, welcomes her presence, but never surrenders his center to her opinion. The sovereign doesn't need permission to be himself. He is not threatened by her rejection. He is not inflated by her approval. Because the woman is no longer his god, and he is no longer her worshiper. That is what it means to face the Anima without submission. Not by hating her, not by conquering her, but by refusing to make her responsible for the man you must become. That's where the war ends, and the real love begins. There is a love that liberates, and there is a love that enslaves. Most men today don't know the difference. They call it romantic, but it's ritualistic. They call it love, but it's worship. And no man who worships a woman will ever stand tall in his own life. He will contort, he will please, he will shrink, and worst of all, he will wait. Wait to be chosen, wait to be praised, wait to be seen. But the truth? She cannot give you what you're missing. Not because she's cruel, but because it was never hers to give. The validation you're starving for, that was your father's silence. The softness you crave, that was your mother's absence. The dream you chase in her eyes, that's the echo of a boy who still hopes love will finally fill the hole. But here's the medicine no one wants to swallow. She is not your redemption. She is not your ending. She is not the key to your masculine self. She is the mirror, and what you see in her will always reflect what you've refused to face in you. So love her if you must. Cherish her if you can, but never worship her, because worship demands sacrifice. And too many men have bled their purpose, their backbone, and their soul at the altar of a woman they imagined, rather than the truth they ignored. This is your turning point. If you stay asleep, you'll keep chasing the fantasy, keep blaming the woman, keep folding your spine to be acceptable. But if you wake up, You'll remember who you were before the illusion. You'll stop auditioning. You'll start building a mission, a frame, a life that doesn't beg for approval because it's rooted in truth. The woman may walk with you. She may not. But the man you are becoming, he doesn't change based on who stays. So if this opened your eyes, don't scroll away. Subscribe. Not for me, for you. For the part of you that's tired of shrinking. For the men out there still lost in the fantasy. Let this be your line in the sand. You can love her, but you must stop worshiping her. That is the beginning of your sovereignty.